So obviously we all have our biases and I am no exception. If you're new here, it's been somewhat of a recurring theme on the channel to have a video defending the reasons for my criticisms of both Microsoft and Sony wherever applicable, and quite frankly I hate making them. But they are a bit of a necessary evil, because without them I think people might honestly start to believe that I prefer one console over the other and assume that's the reason for any criticism I have towards the opposite brand. Which, as a YouTuber, you most definitely do not want to be happening. With that being said, last time around, and well, every time around to be honest, I was under the chopping block for being a bit harsh towards Microsoft's, in my opinion, odd business model and ideology regarding exclusives for the Xbox Series X. Go figure. I will admit that in my previous video I was pretty harsh towards what Phil Spencer had been saying at that point, and I'm not going to change my mind in the fact that I believe that some of his statements are inconsistent. But a lot of people seem to have confused my disapproval with inconsistency with disapproval of either ideology that created said inconsistency, which, believe it or not, is not the message I'm trying to create on this channel. Unless we're talking teraflops. I'm going to have issues with that measuring metric until the day I die, but aside from that, I don't think there's anything wrong with either message Microsoft was trying to sell at one point. I just hope that they stuck to one and didn't get all flippity floppity between the two whenever it's convenient. Now, I don't plan to change my opinion on that subject, but I also don't want to make it seem like Microsoft isn't at least doing some great things by implementing this secondary change of the direction of Xbox, where exclusives shouldn't be exclusive and a lack of power, as in the case of the original Xbox One, shouldn't lock players away from being able to enjoy games. I for one think that's pretty noble, a bit odd when you're going up against a company that would do everything in its power to bury you, but noble nonetheless. However, Microsoft's recent exclusive game showcase, which was pretty decent all things considered, pretty much 100% confirmed the theory I have for why Xbox has been as odd as it has been in terms of business models and exclusives for the last couple of years. So I really think you should sit down and hear this one out. This video is going to be about the things that Microsoft are just knocking out of the park and how it all ties into this greater master plan that I actually suspect them of having. Again, go figure. And this master plan might involve both PC and PS4 gaming more than you think. Yeah, I know, a reach, but humor me for a second. So before we get directly into it, allow me to preface this whole video by saying this. I am a PC player, so that means all first-party Xbox exclusives as well as anything on Xbox Game Pass could easily be accessed and played by me without having to own an Xbox. In fact, all things considered, I don't need to own an Xbox, and I won't technically be missing out on anything if I didn't, but I still do. So the question is, why is that? That's going to be the basis of today's video. Why and how Microsoft makes it so easy and convenient to join the Xbox family. Making it honestly enough of an easy choice that even a PC player like myself might still have some value becoming a part of it. Okay, so now before you guys call me an idiot for being a PC player who also owns an Xbox, allow me to explain myself, or at least try to. And I want to say, while I disagree with the live service route Xbox as a whole is trending in, with Game Pass slowly becoming such a big thing, it's definitely still something worth considering as it does a lot of things PlayStation does not offer. Without further ado, here's what I think is Xbox's master plan. Okay, first up, Xbox's Play Anywhere initiative. Now for those of you guys who just made fun of me for owning an Xbox and a PC at the same time a couple of seconds ago, allow me to blow your mind real quick. So Xbox's Play Anywhere initiative was something I'm assuming was introduced to get unsuspecting PC players such as myself to actually consider purchasing an Xbox. And what it does is it simply allows games purchased directly from the Microsoft Store or Xbox.com to be accessible to whatever Xbox or Windows 10 device that you own. And that's big. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the memes of Xbox having no purpose since you could just play all their games on PC anyways, and also get the added benefit of gaining access to PC games. But as someone who owns both a PC and an Xbox, I'm going to have to disagree, and Play Anywhere is a big part of that. So a lot of people seem to be under the impression that Xbox games are just available on PC and that's the full extent of it. And while that might be true if you're doing it wrong like I was for quite a while, it actually goes one layer deeper than that. You see, Xbox Play Anywhere allows you as a PC or Xbox player to purchase a game once and play it on either device whenever you want. It's not like you just purchase a game from the Microsoft Store on PC and have to purchase it again if you are a PC player who also owns an Xbox. No, you purchase it once and it's yours. And this creates some pretty interesting and lucrative possibilities for both PC and Xbox players who might be interested in trying out the other platform. Picture this, you're a PC gamer like myself and you really enjoy playing a certain game, whatever it may be. But this weekend, your family has to go out of town for a wedding, so you'll be stuck in a hotel room with no access to your big clunky PC for a full 4 days. A situation that's very depressing for a gamer if you've ever had the displeasure of having to go through it. But with Xbox Play Anywhere, it would be really simple to just pick up your younger brother's Xbox One S, or possibly even your own Xbox One S, log onto your Microsoft account in the hotel, and continue playing whatever game you had your teeth sunk into the whole weekend, achievements, progress and all, wedding or not. And it doesn't even need to be that complex. Say you just want to bring your games over to your buddy's house to have a good time. PCs aren't particularly known for their portability and laptops are whack, so this instantly fixes that issue as well. And this is something that I could personally attest to. I remember being forced into a hotel room for 4 days during the height of my Cuphead playthrough, and coincidentally also being away from my PC on the same day that Resident Evil 7 Biohazard released. You can imagine how clutch being a PC player who also happens to own an Xbox came in those two instances. Needless to say, Play Anywhere did its job. And the reverse is also true. Say for instance you're an Xbox player right now, yes, right now, and that you also happen to own some Xbox Play Anywhere compatible titles, which is pretty likely even though you wouldn't even know it. Then if you wanted to build a PC this instant because you've been interested in trying it out for quite some time, you'd already have a decently sized library from your Xbox at no extra charge. Like I said in the beginning, that's absolutely massive. I honestly cannot stress enough how much of a big deal that is to ensure that both PC players and Xbox players alike have an incentive to own the other platform, while not making it mandatory, which is honestly a great move by Microsoft. And it's no surprise that Sony has also recently shown major interest in eventually bringing PlayStation exclusives over to the PC platform, but as far as I'm aware, there is no Play Anywhere competitor being offered by Sony, which is not very consumer friendly in the slightest and actually makes me very sad. Like, when I found out that Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding were coming to PC in the coming months, I was absolutely ridiculously excited. As someone who personally owns a PlayStation for their exclusives, it was really good news for me to hear that two of my favorite PlayStation games were coming over to my platform of choice. Until I found out that I'd have to pay a full $60 for them. Again. I'll pass. So Xbox Play Anywhere is something that's great for PC players and Xbox players alike, and something that Sony doesn't seem to be interested in implementing, at least for the time being. And all those things I just discussed doesn't mean that Play Anywhere isn't without its limitations. For example, while the option is available to all developers making a game both on PC and Xbox alike, they are not required to enable Play Anywhere in their games, because at the end of the day it will be them losing money and not Microsoft. So inadvertently, that means that the library of supported Play Anywhere games is almost laughably small at around 100 titles. But there are several notable titles in there and it's constantly increasing in size. Not to mention that all Xbox exclusives like Halo Infinite, for example, are automatically compatible with Xbox Play Anywhere, which already blows Sony out of the water in that respect. So if some of the Microsoft exclusive games shown off last week at the game show actually end up being good, third-party games would just be a bonus. Limitation number 2. Play Anywhere is only compatible with the digital versions of games, meaning that if you own an Xbox and happen to prefer physical discs, the copy of your game will not be compatible with Play Anywhere, a design choice that was obviously intended to counter infinite game copy generation by passing around the disc to friends, for example. Sad, but I think it's a required sacrifice. And limitation number 3, if you happen to be a PC player and would like to take advantage of this, that means you have to leave your launcher of choice, whether it be Origin, Uplay, Epic, GOG, Steam, or what have you, and instead purchase the game directly from the Microsoft Store, which is something to get used to if I had to be completely honest. Look, it's not a surprise that the Microsoft Store is a bit rough around the edges in comparison to PC gaming juggernauts like Steam, Epic, or GOG, but it's passable. And having everything laid out for you nice in the Xbox console companion makes it just barely bearable. Barely bearable. And honestly, I just link all of my games to the GOG launcher anyway, so I don't have to see the Xbox interface unless I want to purchase a new game, making it so that I don't particularly have to carry either. So Xbox Play Anywhere? Definitely something that Microsoft is doing right. Nobody wants to buy a game twice, and it's only one piece of the puzzle to Xbox's overall master plan. But let's move on to the second, and that is Xbox Game Pass. Now, if you're not an owner of Xbox Game Pass, I could understandably see why you're not a fan of it, because honestly, once you get into it, it's kind of hard to get out. Without spending too much time on the logistics because it's pretty self-explanatory, Xbox Game Pass is like the Netflix of games. Seriously, you pay a monthly subscription and you get instant access to over 100 high-quality games that you can play at any time with no restrictions. If you do the math and argue that you could finish at least one of these games a month, that's 12 quality games a year that you've only played at most $180 for with the most expensive version of the subscription, or $120 for just Xbox players, and at the time of recording this, $60 for just PC players. Kind of a freaking steal, and they're always constantly adding in new games, so the deal is literally getting better and better by the day. Like how they just confirmed that every single Xbox exclusive shown at the game show last week will automatically be added to Game Pass on release. Ridiculous. And by my count, that's about 22 relatively high quality games that I don't believe, if you have any sort of in real life responsibilities, you could reasonably hope to finish within a year. But Microsoft is giving them to you for free at no extra charge anyway. Games like Halo Infinite, As Dusk Falls, Psychonauts 2, The Medium, which actually looks pretty cool by the way, and Tell Me Why are all coming free of extra charge. That's kind of a stupid bargain. And the reason they're able to pull off a deal like this is because they're so damn rich. Microsoft is actually one of only 4 trillion dollar companies. Yes, trillion with 12 zeros. And guess who the other 3 are? Chances are you've probably heard of them. In order of worth, they are Apple at 1.61 trillion, Microsoft at 1.53 trillion, Amazon at 1.49 trillion, and Alphabet at 1.04 trillion. And you're probably like, oh, I don't know this one. No, you do. It's Google and YouTube's parent company, so you're actually using their product right now. Needless to say, they're all pretty rich. And when you're that rich and lost a console generation as bad as you did with the Xbox One, that obviously means that you have some spare funds in order to be able to change tact, which is exactly what Microsoft is doing. They can afford to put so many great games in Xbox Game Pass because they're playing the long game. Kinda like how Amazon can afford to put items on sale for cheaper than small businesses, thus in turn eventually running them into the ground, in which case Amazon would no longer have any competition and be able to control the flow of the entire market, which if you've been online shopping recently, they 100% do. That's what Microsoft is trying to do with Xbox Game Pass. They can afford to lose the money while the competition can't, so they're going to give you free games until you eventually take the plunge. Again, the long game, mark my words on that one. Now, I know what you must be thinking. I know I just made a video bashing Phil Spencer and yelling into the mic that gaming and Netflix-like services aren't the same thing, and I still stand by that. But, and this is a big but, I still do think it could work and has been working so far for one crucial reason. That reason being, Xbox Game Pass is only on one console right now, the Xbox One, and also PC if you want to say that too. So all the games are not being held back by any limitations in hardware. See, what Phil Spencer wants to do is making so that all Xbox Game Pass games can be played on whatever device you signed up on, thus in turn enabling the original Xbox One to hold back the Series X upon release. Not a good idea. You see, that's what I disagree with, not the whole gaming Netflix model as a whole, and I guess I should have made that a bit clearer in my last video. And we could already see that some games shown off by Microsoft actually won't have an Xbox One counterpart, which in my opinion is great news for Series X owners. But let's say for instance that Xbox Game Pass eventually grows to offer a library of games that require specific hardware to play depending on the game you're interested in. Like for example, having a title in Game Pass be available to all subscribers regardless of hardware, but requiring a Series X or PC to play it. And if you put your thinking caps on for a second, you could kind of see where this may be going. Using this model, I can in fact totally see a future where major compromises are made between Sony and Microsoft, and Xbox Game Pass is simply renamed to Game Pass, and Sony acquires a 50% stake in the brand in exchange for select PlayStation games becoming a part of the library, again requiring a PlayStation to play however. And a future like this would make it the true Netflix of gaming that eliminates all hardware limitation problems I discussed in my last video, as well as incentivizes everyone to purchase as many of the consoles as they can, a true win-win situation for both Sony and Microsoft, while still being a major deal for us. And if Nintendo ever wants to get in on it, all the better. Imagine a $20 a month subscription where you get instant access to hundreds of PC, Xbox, and PlayStation games for as long as you're subscribed, PlayStation exclusives and all, at no extra charge. I think This is the direction Microsoft wants to go in to eliminate the traditional pay $60 or $70 for a game and it's yours business model, and instead head towards a future where new games are just added to a library of existing titles and are automatically a part of your subscription, making gaming literally the same as Netflix or Spotify, with the only added caveat that you need to own multiple consoles in order to take full advantage of all the games. And this theory is something that's a little scary, but may in fact be a net positive for us, again, if implemented correctly. Because trust me, even Xbox Game Pass as it is right now is a major bargain, which is why I honestly do believe that Microsoft may go all in here in hopes that it eventually catches on. And again, with the announcement that all Xbox Series X exclusive titles will be on Game Pass going forward, it's already starting to, and if it gets even bigger, it would be a shame if Sony didn't have a competitor. Enter Microsoft at Sony headquarters with a potential deal to strike. Far into the future, yes, but it doesn't sound too crazy now, does it? And I gotta say, as a user of Game Pass, there's currently nothing like it on Sony's side of the business, which absolutely sucks because they'd probably do a great job at it too. But like I said, Sony probably can't afford it, and it's definitely Microsoft's hope that that continues to be the case. Sony's total company is only valued at about $96 billion, by the way, which is less than 7% of Microsoft, and also less than this single dude and this single dude. So you could totally see what Microsoft is trying to do here. The only step they're missing is to actually start producing good games, but you know, I digress. But let's move on to the next point of this master plan, and that is xCloud. Now for those of you guys who don't know what xCloud is, it's a pretty straightforward concept. It's a video game streaming service similar to Google Stadia, with the only difference being that as of right now you don't pay for the games like you do in Stadia, just the service. The way it works now with Google Stadia streaming service is that you pay a monthly fee for Stadia itself, then you still have to go ahead and pay full price for whatever game you want to stream through Stadia, which really doesn't make too much sense considering that if you stop paying for Stadia, it's not like you'll continue to be able to access the games you paid for, you'll just be down hundreds of dollars. Enter Microsoft's xCloud, which focuses exclusively on mobile devices. With this service, you'll be able to pay a single monthly fee to have access to several games and stream them directly to your mobile device for free. And presumably, as you buy your own Xbox or PC games and link them directly to your Microsoft account, you'll be able to use xCloud to play those games if they weren't a part of the free library already, assuming they're supported. And the reason that this is a big deal is because it allows Microsoft and the Xbox brand to cover over the last section of the market that they were missing: the mobile market. And now I know what some of you guys might be thinking. Innocence, PlayStation has a direct competitor to this, PlayStation Now. Something like this isn't new news, it's not a master plan. And to that I say, you're half right, because PlayStation Now is a streaming service with a large catalog of games that you can pay a monthly fee for, but it's aimed at a completely different audience, that being you can only subscribe to PlayStation Now on PS4 and PC devices, thus in turn making it more of an Xbox Game Pass competitor rather than xCloud, which focuses more on bringing games to the mobile market only. So now you're thinking, if that's the case and PlayStation Now really could be a competitor to Xbox Game Pass, why didn't I mention it before? Well, that's because I honestly do believe that as of right now, PlayStation Now doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell against Xbox Game Pass. Because you really can't expect to compare a streaming service to the massive native download library that Xbox Game Pass is providing and is constantly expanding. They're just two completely different beasts. The best way that I could put it is that PlayStation Now was initially created with backwards compatibility for the PS2 and PS3 on the PS4 in mind, not to compete with any alternative brand created by Microsoft. And you could kind of see this fact in each of their respective libraries. The PlayStation Now library is definitely a bit more dated, which again is exactly what it was designed to be, whereas Microsoft's Game Pass library is a lot more modern and up to date. Now that doesn't mean that PlayStation Now doesn't have at least a couple of modern games. It does, just not as much as Game Pass, which is why I don't consider it a serious competitor. Again, that and the fact that you're streaming games, which is, you know, always an experience. But to continue, xCloud is still in a closed beta preview stage with the release date slated for September of this year, so there's still a lot of details that we don't know, but taking a look at early reviews and reports, it already seems to be a lot more reliable than Google Stadia, which is already a major plus. And I think I forgot to properly explain this, but there will be a particular focus from Microsoft to ensure that all of their exclusive games are xCloud supported. You will need an Xbox controller to play, however, but it has been confirmed that support for the DualShock 4 as well as future controllers is also in the works. And with 5G making its slow but steady debut into the world, mobile streaming of console games might actually become decently viable not too far in the distant future, making this not a terrible idea by Microsoft either, because I'd probably end up seeing myself using it. I'd probably end up using it. And as of creating this video, there is no PlayStation alternative that brings games to the mobile space. Again, Microsoft is deliberately attacking areas that PlayStation has never thought to populate and ones that they can't afford to. And that fact is going to be big for the next part of this video, which pretty much confirms that Microsoft has indeed been cooking something up in the kitchen for all of these years. And like I've been saying, they're playing the slow game so everyone is sleeping on them now, but if you're a PlayStation fan or Sony, just be a bit wary, because the more time I thought about what Microsoft is doing here, the more I realized what they're setting up isn't something that's going to show gradual progress and have a proper warning. It's something that's going to take one good game, one game that everyone loves and gives dashing reviews, even from PlayStation fans, to explode and potentially shake the gaming industry. I don't know when, and probably not soon, but it's just some food for thought. Finally, this last part of the video all but confirms everything I've been saying thus far, how Microsoft might have actually been planning something this entire time: the merging of their live services. Now, this is something that has been rumored for a while, but has recently been reinforced by some rather odd moves by Microsoft. And if it's true, this will be big for the future of how games are charged for, contingent on the fact that it's a successful business model in the hands of the public. Which, if history is the teller of this story, it probably will be. And what I mean by this is the merging of Xbox Games Pass, Xbox Live Gold, xCloud, and Xbox Play Anywhere under a single subscription at no additional charge to a regular Games Pass membership. Yeah, you heard me right. At no additional charge to you as a current Games Pass owner, you'll eventually get an Xbox Live Gold membership, enabling you to get 2 to 4 new Xbox games a month as well as online multiplayer, xCloud, which will enable you to play your supported Xbox titles on the go, Xbox Play Anywhere, which will allow you to seamlessly switch between console and PC gaming whenever you want without having to purchase the same game twice, and of course, Xbox Games Pass itself, which allows you access to a library of hundreds of high-quality AAA, indie, and blockbuster games. It's kind of ridiculous how much of a great value that is for only $15 a month. In fact, it's stupid ridiculous how much of a great value that is, and it's honestly something that I recommend everyone at least honor the first month for $1 deal they currently have going on. And no, this video is not sponsored by Microsoft. I just thought it was time to showcase some of the good that Microsoft has been cooking under the hood, because I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty damn good. I myself have just now noticed how they may tie into each other and wanted to share my theory with the world. And like I said, if we as gamers keep sleeping, Microsoft might just one day blindside the market. It's always a possibility. Now, just to reiterate, this massive merger is not complete just yet, so what I've just stated is not currently possible, but it seems to be just over the horizon, as Microsoft has just recently confirmed that xCloud will come included with Games Pass Ultimate when it launches later this year, and have also recently added Xbox Live Gold to it at no extra charge. But again, these additions are only to the most expensive version of Games Pass, coming in at $15 a month. Still, like I said, if the rumors are true, I wouldn't be surprised to see it become available across all SKUs of Games Pass eventually. Microsoft is trying really hard to get your money from this service, and in my opinion, I think they're doing it the right way. A lot of these services offered here by Microsoft and the Xbox brand just don't have any competition provided by Sony. So I have a real bad feeling that this situation is just a ticking time bomb waiting to explode, just like Ryzen was to Intel back in 2017, for all my PC heads out there who'll get that. If it's left unchecked by Sony and all the right pieces fall into place, we could smell some pretty heated battles coming up this next generation, and that's always good to hear. Assuming Microsoft actually manages to put out some great games, this entire complex plan, net, web, or whatever you want to call it, falls apart if these guys can't put together great titles. Again, go figure. But all that stuff aside, I really do think people should stop sleeping on Microsoft. And look, I know I criticize Microsoft all the time, because they make mistakes all the time. But in general, their vision for the future actually doesn't seem too far-fetched now that I put some thought into it, if they play their cards right and force Sony's hand, which is going to require them to buckle up and actually start producing some great exclusive Xbox titles, as well as furloughing some of that uber noble consumer friendliness for the sake of actual practicality. But I've said that time and time and again in this video, so I don't think you needed to hear it a fourth time, but I said it anyways. If they do that within the next couple of years, I could see this master plan forcing a move out of Sony after what seems to be like 8 years of dominance by PlayStation. And that, competition that is, as the end consumer, is always great to see. And that's going to be the end of the video, guys. If you liked it, leave a like. If you disliked it, dislike. And be sure to subscribe if you're interested in seeing more content from the channel. Also, hit that bell notification button if you're so inclined. But with that being said, dudes and dudettes, I've been Innocence, you've been the audience, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.